Ladies and gentlemen, sorry for that long pause. We have a little bit of a technical glitch backstage, but we will be having our next speaker right now. Introducing our next speaker is Professor K. Vijayaraghavan, the Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India. And the topic that he will be picking up today is the promises and the pitfalls for future deep tech entrepreneurs in a world where supply chain, climate change, and energy issues will be central. Professor, as I mentioned, is the principal scientific advisor to the Government of India and has succeeded Dr. Chidambaram in 2018. He is the chairperson of the Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council. He was Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Government of India before this. The Principal Scientific Advisor works with all arms of the government, with our states, our citizens, national and international agencies. The goal is that the benefits of science, technology, and innovation solutions reach the most needy for the sustainable development of the country and the well being of our planet. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you
I'm
very
so glad
much.
you were able to make it.
Is it okay for me to start now?
Yes, of course, we
Good.
can hear you now.
Good evening, everybody. This is a very unusual discussion because you can hear me and I can't hear the people backstage or the organizers. It's a wonderful situation because I can say what I want and they can't stop me. But anyway, it's not that I have anything controversial or difficult to say. You know, the principal point I'd like to address is whether there is a feasibility in our startups to enter the deep tech sector and do well nationally and globally. And by the deep tech sector, I'm leaving out all those kinds of startups which are doing really well in e-commerce or in delivery or in providing services and so on. That's an extraordinary success story. We have seen recent examples going out of control. I'll also like to leave out those kinds of startups which are in the teaching space and the training space. They're also doing really well. And the kinds of startups I'm looking at, I'll give you hypothetical and real kind of examples, are those which will make major breakthroughs in telecom, in space, in combining space and agriculture, or space and health, and space and education, and so on. Now, these are sectors where there are extraordinary demands in India, but the challenge is that the demands are really by public sector efforts of various kinds. And they include, in addition to the list I gave you, examples such as the Jal Shakti mission, which aims to get water through tap to every village in the country, the Swachhata mission, which aims to clean the big garbage dumps in our cities, and so on. But I also include other kinds of deep tech missions, such as those many of you are not familiar with, like the Laser Interferometric Gravitational Observatory, of which there are two in the world in America, and the third one is coming up in Maharashtra. And these are huge arrays of equipment and 4-kilometer long tubes, two tubes, which have lasers going through them and really ultra high vacuum. And this is a very important opportunity for our startups in the tech industry, because if you can master these kinds of technologies, then you have a great opportunity as small and medium entrepreneurships in Europe and America and the rest of India where things are coming up. So what stops us in these kinds of areas? And in my view, there are 2 or 3 aspects which are tractable but current obstacles which we need to address. But first of all, we see, if you look at the startups which have been successful, the entrepreneurs have come out of our engineering ecosystem, but they are not umbilically connected to the engineering ecosystem. In other words, they are products of their personal ambition and not products of institutional ambition. We're seeing some examples of institutional ambition in this space, and those are doing very well. And they are, for example, the incubator entrepreneurship space, aside institutions in Madras, IIT Madras, Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, and so on. And these, which are umbilically connected to the institutions, are increasingly seeing not just students who come off from these institutions getting into entrepreneurship, but we're seeing people who are in those institutions getting in. Now, what is preventing these startups who are in multiple sectors, in space and drones and so on and so forth, from catapulting into a really advanced level and becoming unicorns? Till recently, the geospatial policy, the space policy, and the drone policy had substantial restrictions which prevented these from, ramping up. Those restrictions are gone now. These are really wide open space. And also the new data policies allow you to take data collected from this and use this in multiple applications. So we're going to see an enormous upsurge at the ground level in terms of demand for products analogous but distinct from delivery for product delivery systems. Farmers, healthcare workers, people involved in mining. The geospatial policy allows startups to look at to map bathyscopically map our coastal areas. Enormous possibility there. High tech gravimetry mapping for mining becomes an enormous possibility. So all this will take off. The problems in my mind are that many startups are not potentially aware of this, so there's to be a greater awareness of this being pushed. And the other challenge is that venture capital doesn't know what likelihood of success there is in these kinds of ventures and how to invest in them. And there, I think the solution is twofold. One, of course, venture capitalists will get advice from the best people around the world. But the other solution is that government agencies, which are deeply involved in these sectors and have great knowledge in these sectors, should partner in two possible ways with venture capitalists to allow risk mitigation. And these two ways are the following. Government institutions of the CSIR, for example, the defense labs, the agricultural labs, the medical labs, labs of the DST, the Science and Technology Department, and biotechnology, can become equity holders through knowledge, sweat equity holders of various kinds in these new companies, or advise venture capitalists about what are the likelihood of success and risks in these companies. This allows enormous risk mitigation because really, unlike in other kinds of commerce areas, the pickings are so obvious and so available that a good tech advice will allow capital to decide whether to invest or not. Now, the market possibilities right now are limited, and capital will look and see that, look, these are very exciting areas, but I'm not going to get huge success and rapid returns if I invest in mining or in biotech in India. And the answer to that is that given the kinds of technological jumps which one can make now in data collection, analysis, and the Internet of Things going back to the field, these companies can scale not only in India, that will be a steady linear scaling, but they can scale exponentially globally. So these opportunities are very high, and I would urge capital to think of ways by which the best advice, either through sweat equity of Indian intellectuals and Indian researchers, can come in, or how government agencies can partner in funds of funds and advise on what are the areas for national social and economic interest where reliable startups, which are vetted by a group because the government has given a lot of seed funding for them to come up, can be taken forward. So these are the two broad kinds of areas. So given this, I think now at the user end, there has to be also an aggregation of availability of solutions. If you take the farmer, for example, there are literally dozens of apps now which tell the farmer which market to go, what seed to buy, what pesticide, what fertilizer, and so on and so forth. And therefore, aggregation into some form which allows easy access is important. And there's a great potential for last mile interface startups which interface with the apps on one side and the farmer, for example, or the healthcare worker or the patient on the other, so that this last mile bridge between the real physical world, and the apps can be done. Let me end by pointing out that these kinds of companies are something which we should become expert at on scale, given the large size of the potential solutions. And one example of that scale is this Jal Shakti mission I mentioned. This requires sensors to ensure that water supply is available everywhere. Those sensors are going to be imported on a huge scale. So there's a great potential for manufacturing these sensors on scale, either by partnership with international companies or with our national laboratories on scaling. Much of our tech in this area is available. The solutions are available. It's not that anything new has to be invented. But taking that available technology, which has crossed all the barriers, and techno-economically making it viable and profitable is very, very important. And this requires two kinds of solutions. One, which is to remove bells and whistles and make it marketable and viable. And the other, put on specific local bells and whistles to allow scaling in the market. That combined with cloud analysis of data and feeding back into decision making is going to be a big future for various kinds of startups. Thank you very much. I'll stop here. I don't know how I'm going to take questions, but one way is that if you can put questions in the chat box, then we could be fine. Hello? Oh, good. I can see the questions in the chat box. Should I start looking at them? I'm sorry, in the Q&A.
In the Q&A, so these are questions from the older session.
I'm trying to do some lip reading here.
Oh, if you can see it at your end, then potentially you can answer them. But what I see here is the previous session questions, unfortunately. Can you see any of the questions, Professor?
So let me answer the questions at the risk of choosing the wrong question. The last question is there an association can be created for deep tech companies? Yes, can, should, must. Let's do that soon. Similar opportunities in clean technology, immense opportunities in clean technology. We are trying to twist the arms of leading companies all over the world to do tech transfer and clean technology. That's becoming more and more feasible. There's lots of clean tech waiting to be scaled up. That needs to be done hugely. Going upwards, is the UID also getting extended in creating healthcare profile for individuals? The National Digital Health Mission has been launched nationally. It was earlier for union territories. That creates, you can choose your Aadhaar ID or another health ID, and that will allow digital health access. What is the government going to do on cutting methane released?
Those are the previous session questions.
Raising, which is dreadful greenhouse gas, more plentiful than CO2. Very important question about greenhouse gas from cattle. The whole issue of the amount of energy which goes into cattle production and their use, what is the thing like, is an important one. That requires more rational agriculture in multiple levels, and this is a major challenge. Greenhouse gas, both from rice cultivation and cattle, is a big challenge.
Professor, all other questions are from the previous session. Can you hear me?
I think I'm done with those questions, unless you want me to look at anything else.
I think we are done with the session, Professor. All the questions have been answered. And thank you so much for the time and for all the insights that you've provided. It was a pleasure to have you for this. We will